So why is no one else participating in early stage impact?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think there's a number of different reasons why people are unable to do that. The level of due diligence is hard, especially when you're doing things in the developing world and you're based in the West. As obviously, it's hard to get the level of due diligence that you feel comfortable with. There's a lack of expertise. People are beyond their comfort zone. It's one thing to make an investment locally or to do some giving locally, but it's another thing when it's outside your comfort zone, a culture that you're not so familiar with. And then the third thing, which I think is a huge issue, is the costs. It's one thing to do a couple of % on a $1 million minimum investment that can actually cover your costs. It's another thing to do a couple of % on a $100,000 investment. You just simply can't cover your costs. And a major part of that is, unfortunately, legal fees in being able to get this set up.
So what do you do about these high legal fees?
So we've been really fortunate to be connected with Advocates for International Development a couple of years ago. And I think they are one of the most exciting organisations that are working in the fight to eradicate extreme poverty. 30,000 lawyers looking for pro bono work. And so we spoke to them and said, you know, we've got this idea that we want to make an early stage investment. We want to get co-investors to come alongside us. What would be the best funding vehicle that you can set up, or you can advise us to set up? And we were very fortunate to be put in touch with Deckard. And they have been able to work alongside us, and we set up this wholly owned subsidiary of the Eleos Foundation, and we set up the specific funding vehicle, and we looked to get some estimations as to what the cost would be, and the traditional cost would have been about $50,000 just to get the vehicle set up and to get the PPM pulled together and that type of thing. So being able to work with pro bono lawyers means that it's still expensive, but it's a lot more affordable to be able to come in early.
And so A4ID connected you with these lawyers who they made the connection that
they did, and if we hadn't had that connection, then we would have had to massively change our business model and wouldn't have been able to do that. So we've been really honoured to be able to use Pro Bono Counsel as we've worked through the process, and it's been kind of a great opportunity for us to learn lessons about how to be kind of more effective and how to get our model to be scalable as well.
Can you give us some of the examples?
Yeah, I think it's been really interesting for us. I think there's some very big misconceptions in the development space about how you use pro bono counsel. So one of the key questions that people always say, is that pro bono? Oh, if they're pro bono, just send it over and they can have a look at it. And that is such a counterproductive mentality. If you're working with pro bono counsel, then their time is so precious and so valuable. The traditional mindset of working with an attorney when every 6 minutes you're being charged, you think through your questions carefully, you think through what legal advice you want to have. When you're working with pro bono counsel, even though you're not going to get a bill back, the time is more precious because they've got to get their billable hours in. You're working with attorneys that are highly motivated to be doing this above and beyond often the call of duty. And so the need to have respect for how important their time is crucial. So I think one major lesson learned is making sure that you're being respectful of the time that they have and appreciative of that. And the second, I think, the challenge is when you're a relatively small foundation, which is obviously very different than the typical clients they work with. And so it's trying to make sure that we can help them to be able to be help them to help us, Jerry Maguire style, in terms of giving them the information that they need to be able to get the information back that we need. So we've been, like I said, using their templates and adapting the model that we have. We've just concluded our third deal with them, and we're really pleased with the learnings that we're all having together, challenging them on a different mindset on a few things. We've actually negotiated against ourselves on a couple of things to say actually that's maybe in our interest but isn't going to be in interest of the beneficiary on the ground. So therefore we want to change that term of the contract. We want to change the way that's structured.
And you found that they've been supportive and helpful and worked with you very closely.
They've been more than supportive. They've been incredibly helpful. They've been incredibly patient and helping us to understand it. And in return, we've tried to make every effort we can to keep them in the loop, to be able to share some of the success stories that we're seeing from people on the ground whose dignity is being restored as a direct result of their work. We're really keen to be advocating for A4ID.org because I think they're one of the most exciting organisations, like I said, and if people that are looking to be working in the developing world, either from the entrepreneur's angle or from the investor's angle, want legal advice, there's a lot of experts that are ready to give it.